UFC 289 just recently wrapped up, and Amanda Nunes is the greatest female fighter of all time. She destroyed Irene Aldana. We're going to talk about each matchup on this card. Make sure you guys smash that like button, and if you're new to the channel, subscribe. Let's jump right into the main event. It was Amanda Nunes, Irene Aldana, and it was a one-sided ass whooping. Amanda Nunes not only outstruck Aldana, out-grappled her, looked to be in her absolute prime, not lacking anything. This was like a prime beatdown. This was worse even than Amanda Nunes beating up the likes of like a Germaine de Randamie, or even worse than the most recent fight with Juliana Pena. She absolutely murdered Aldana pretty much every shot, besides Aldana landed like one clean right hand in the first round that actually touched Nunes. And I was honestly waiting for Aldana to start unloading more, but she was super tight and I think set on really trying to find the perfect counter strike for Amanda Nunes that just wasn't there. Amanda Nunes was outboxing her. She was kicking her up. She would take her down. She gets on top. She controls from top. And then, as you saw, finishes the fight throwing ground and pound from full mount. It was one-way traffic. And Nunes, after the fight, says, "That is it for me. I'm retiring from the sport as a two-division champ." And Juliana Pena is cage side, and Juliana Pena was pissed because she was dreaming of that trilogy. She's like, we're 1-1, we're 1-1. I kind of think it's hilarious that Amanda Nunes also was like, nah, threw dirt in her face, you're not getting it. And as dominant as their rematch was, is it really necessary to see those two run it back again? No, Amanda Nunes doesn't have to do that. She's beaten the who's who. She's the greatest female fighter that's ever lived, and she absolutely mauled the one girl that beat her when she was champion, Juliana Pena, when they ran it back. So what's the point of running it back? It would more be to give Pena another chance to maybe pull up some history. And, Amanda Nunes, why risk that when you're already done it all, beaten everyone? Retires, right? So I look at the weight class, and I'm like, okay, well, Aldana, if she would have had a more badass performance and loss, could have potentially found herself fighting for the belt. But she is out of the title picture after the one-way traffic here. So now I'm thinking, okay, who's next for the vacant belt? Because I don't got a who's next for Nunes now. We're doing vacant title fight, Holly Holm, assuming she beats Mayra Bueno Silva. Believe that's a fight. And then I think Holly Holm should face off against Juliana Pena, and the winner of that fight would be champion. It's crazy to think that if Holly Holm wins, she's like a last generation champion getting the belt back. She's what, the second UFC bantamweight champion ever? Can you imagine? She somehow fucking gets in there and gets the belt back after Amanda Nunes' long run. Not going to be easy to do with Juliana Pena. I like that matchup, though. Holm and Pena is a fight that I want to see. Without a doubt, Juliana Pena fights for the title next. It's just a matter of who is the dance partner. Option B is Raquel Pennington. But let me ask you guys something. What are you more interested in? Raquel Pennington versus Juliana Pena or Holly Holm? Let's at least give the fucking weight class a chance here. Because if you go Pennington versus Pena, you best be putting that shit on a fight night card, or it better be a co-main event, because I do not think that gets buys. Juliana Pena in media is talking, oh, Amanda Nunes doesn't draw anybody. I'm telling you, Juliana Pena fighting a Raquel doesn't draw. Holly Holm versus Juliana will draw, but the problem is right now there's like no big name that gives me that excitement. Even Holly Holm's a huge name, and if she wins the belt, great. I'm not overly hyped about hearing Holly Holm in a main event title fight with Juliana Pena. It's a co-main event. Amanda Nunes is really the only woman that could main event these cards and everybody tunes in, and she's the greatest female ever, and we don't get that anymore. Hopefully a star emerges in the women's division soon and can kind of have a similar type of dominance and run to the likes of Amanda Nunes. We shall see when that happens. But Holm, Pena, vacant title. And I hope there's a young, hungry contender on the come-up. Congrats to Nunes on great success. And as I did with Khabib, I picked against Amanda Nunes and decided I'm going to go dog Aldana, which turned out to be the worst fucking call of all time. But ultimately, I did the exact same thing when Khabib fought Gaethje, which was early in the start of the YouTube channel. So it's kind of ironic here. I guess I just have a bad track record with dominant champions who finish on top. For some reason, I want to pick against them in what we feel like, there's a chance of it being the final fight, which is, fumbling the bag a couple times. But that's the game. Congrats to Amanda Nunes. She looks so fucking good. And Aldana, she'll be back eventually. But home Pena. Co-main, this one made my night. Charles Oliveira knocked out Beneil Dariush. I needed this to happen. I was praying for Charlie O because it's just better for the sport. And as a fan, Charles Oliveira is just the most lovable fighter. He's come from being kind of bottom tier. I remember Charles Oliveira when I first started watching the sport when he fought Efrain Escudero and he had this crazy jiu-jitsu game and subs. It was like, who the fuck is this guy? But then you remember Charles Oliveira fighting Max Holloway and ripping his fucking esophagus. Him getting beaten up by XYZ name. Fucking Paul Felder beat him. When you start looking back, you remember Anthony Pettis beat him. There's a lot of L's for Charles Oliveira. But light heavyweight was his best weight class. Fills out, goes on this tremendous run, gets the belt, loses to Islam, and then beats now Beneil Dariush in his first fight back. I think he's still got the goods. I feel like him and Islam Makhachev too. It's a fight that interests me. How many of you guys are opposed to that fight? I think Islam Makhachev and Charles Oliveira rematch, if they do it soon, definitely works. I don't think the UFC is all over giving Volkanovski the next fight. But in the back of my mind, I'm like, I wonder if they want to do that Volkanovski rematch in Abu Dhabi. And if Volk gets through Yair Rodriguez without much damage, would that be something they try and book? I like the Charles Oliveira fight. Let's stick with the lightweights. Let's give Charlie O a shot. I understand Volk gave Islam a really close fight. He can be the next contender in line, but ultimately he's not from this weight class. He is the featherweight champion. Charles Oliveira beat Beneil Dariush, who was coming in on an 8-fight win streak. And let's actually talk about how the fight went down. Charles Oliveira ripped him up with the hands to stop him. Chose to engage in grappling, and Dariush got on top of it, but Oliveira was never threatened or in danger, and it was always throwing shots from the ground. And then when they struck, he hurt Dariush terribly with an overhand, and then ultimately just beats up Beneil Dariush and gets the TKO with ground and pound. It was a tremendous victory. I want Oliveira in the title fight versus Islam Makhachev. That's what I want to see. I want to see Charlie O fight for the belt again. Who else we going to give him? As far as Beneil Dariush, he's in a weird spot now because he took a bad loss. It's like it just drops him. It seems like he's got no chance to get a title fight. So who could Benny fight? When I think about the rankings, I think Arman Tsarukyan is a name, but is Beneil Dariush ready to turn around when Arman's going to want another fight? Because I know Arman is fighting this coming week against Joaquin Silva. That could be the matchup maybe. But it's definitely throwing Beneil Dariush kind of to the killers because Arman Tsarukyan is like a next up contender. We'll see. We'll see. Beneil's in a rough spot with this loss, but Charles Oliveira, it couldn't get better than this. Besides beating Islam Makhachev. That's how it gets better. Featured bout of the night. Listen, Mike Malott beat Adam Fugitt's ass. He ripped him with a body kick earlier. It looked like he was going to be over with. Threw some beautiful punches. He just looked like an absolute monster out there, and Fugitt didn't have anything for him on the ground. He was throwing Fugitt around. Mike Malott is now the Canadian star. I feel like that they needed. Because if you think about Canada, they don't really have any major player. I mean, Charles Jourdain's pretty good. Now we had some great wins by the Canadians on this card. But ultimately, as far as a contender on the come-up, Mike Malott's that guy. And he talks damn good on the mic. 10-1-1 as a pro. He ran through Adam Fugitt, who fought prospect that has a lot of hype, Michael Morales, and gave Michael Morales more trouble than he gave to Mike Malott. So I think Mike Malott is dangerous as fuck. Now, does he warrant a ranked contender after beating an Adam Fugitt, that's where things get tricky. I don't know exactly what that they're going to want to do with Mike Malott just yet. But at some point, I just see him and Ian Gary as a potential country versus country fight night main event. Something like that. I don't know. I think Ian Gary and him is a crazy fight. And you do, Canada versus, fucking lose, almost said Iraq. Canada versus Ireland. But I would want to see Mike Malott get a top tier win first. I think he'll be ready to turn around rather quickly. And I see him getting another victory. So awesome work by Mike Malott there. It was a great performance. And he looks like a future star. Dan Ige, Nate Landwehr. Ige wins it. Listen, Nate Landwehr came on strong in the third round, but was getting picked apart by the superior technical striker in Dan Ige. Nate Landwehr wasn't going as crazy, right? He wasn't just giving up stupid punches by blitzing. He was trying to be a bit more calculated. Ultimately, just really had a hard time finding Dan Ige. There was a speed difference. There was definitely a boxing skill difference. Movement favored the side of Dan Ige. It was just the overall better technical fighter was Ige. And he got himself a clean, unanimous decision win. Ate some shots in the process. Nate Landwehr is a game dog. But ultimately the winner, Dan Ige, gets it done. He deserved a W. And I had it, I think 3-0 on my card. But I know there was a 29-28 scorecard in the mix. Marc-Andre Barriault and Eryk Anders. It was actually a really good fight. Eryk Anders got dropped in the first round, and then he got rocked in the third. There was a lot of back and forth here. With Eryk Anders, he's a good athlete. But I don't know. At times, I feel like he just smothers his punches against the cage. And Barriault, just the better fighter. Finding good shots, quicker, slicker, and fucking on the money, actually. Marc-Andre Barriault put up a really nice performance. I liked it a lot here. I feel like Marc-Andre... It's not like he's fighting a ranked opponent after this, but he's a popular, like, mid-tier fighter with a good, entertaining style. He brings heat with his hands. He can bang with these back-end middleweights. He hurt Anders a few times. Barriault takes a good shot. It was a solid win. Good shit for Barriault. Imavov, Chris Curtis. This one was a no contest, but let's not forget, Nasruddin Imavov was beating Chris Curtis up and looked like he was en route to a win. He was out striking him. He was out grappling him, out wrestling him. That OV, don't forget about Imavov, even though he's French now. He still got some wrestling skill, and he was taking Chris Curtis down. It's an unfortunate situation with the accidental clash of heads, which caused this fight to stop because it was like a really nasty cut that Chris Curtis suffered. But Imavov was going to win. He was on his way to winning the fight. We'll see. I think the UFC probably moves Imavov forward, but a rematch wouldn't be impossible. But I definitely don't love Chris Curtis's chances. If they rebook that, I think Imavov's 3-1 favorite. Jasudavicius versus Maverick. Jasudavicius beat Miranda Maverick up. Maverick couldn't wrestle with her, couldn't strike with her, and just got dominated. Jasudavicius looked like a savage out there. I got to tell you, Jasudavicius' hype is going all the way up after this one. She's a fun prospect. I mean, she is 34 on the older side, but she seems fresh and ready to fight and has that fire as she's coming forward. Like, you know she has that dog in her. And Miranda Maverick just couldn't match it. She was outclassed in this fight. She called out Jasudavicius too, which was a big mistake because Jasudavicius was unranked. And now Miranda Maverick's definitely booted from the rankings. So good performance by Jasudavicius. She was a big dog too, repped Canada. Another big dog that repped Canada, Aiemann Zahabi and Aoriqileng. Zahabi knocks him out in a minute. I was fucking hyped to see Zahabi put his hands on Aori like that. He was smooth, man. Smooth as fuck. Aiemann Zahabi's dangerous. His brother, the great Faraz Zahabi, great MMA mind. It's just like Aoriqileng. I was surprised to see him get chinned like that. But a little bit wilder. Zahabi, calculated. And that calculated style was beautiful, man. Good underdog that hit there. Kyle Nelson, Blake Bilder. Kyle Nelson put it on for the Canadians, giving Blake Bilder his first L. He was able to stop Bilder's takedown attempts and just pick him apart with the striking. It was a scrap for sure, and there were moments for Bilder in the fight, but Kyle Nelson was doing the more effective damage. And I was honestly really impressed with this game. I knew he was tough, but the fact that he totally eliminated any grappling threat from Blake Bilder. And then at the end, Blake Bilder, I think, had a bit of a mental lapse. He was dancing at the end. Yeah, come on. No, bro, you needed the knockout. You had to blitz him there. Obviously easier said than done from me sitting here, but just honestly, for his most likelihood of success winning the fight, it would have been for Blake Bilder at the end of that fight to fucking blitz and try to unload craziness. Yeah, he could get knocked the fuck out. Yes, that is the fight game. Unfortunately, he's dancing, doing all this shit. I am now like, damn, okay, Blake Bilder for some reason has a mental lapse when things get real tough late. He's having too much fun almost in there because a loss was guaranteed if they went distance, and he ultimately suffered the fate of a loss. Nelson looked good. I was disappointed seeing Blake Bilder go out like that. It's a rough one for him. This ain't a joke loss. This loss right here is a bad one. Nelson 2-4-1 now in the UFC. Finally gets another win going. He's good to watch. He's fun. I like Kyle Nelson. Blake Bilder, he's in a rebuilding spot. Next fight was the co-main event. Holy shit. Steve Erceg beat David Dvořák's ass. Steve Erceg is next up as a flyweight contender, and he can strike, he can grapple. He's got the least menacing frame I've ever seen, but goddamn, he's a killer when he gets a hold of you. And when he's striking with you, you better watch out too. He's got a sniper 1-2. He just put it on Dvořák. It was a great performance. He's got an awesome nickname too, Steve Astro Boy Erceg. He's got a cool vibe, man. He almost looks like Jimmy Neutron a little bit. There's marketability with him. I think from Perth, yeah, he's got that toughness from Australia. And he's, 5'9" at 125? That's like freakishly tall, too. There's a lot of potential with Steve Erceg. A lot of potential. I think that Steve Erceg winning your debut like this at 27, this guy could be a title challenger at some point. I really feel like that was a huge breakout performance on 8 days' notice to beat up David Dvořák like that. So, mad respect to Steve Erceg. And starting the night off, Diana Belbiţă won, and she looked great in the process. Throws, big power strikes, strong in the grappling department. Mariah Oliveira, I heard then she was doing reality TV before this show. What the fuck? She got beaten up. Belbiţă was better than her and had more dog in her and earned the clean win. Oliveira had some moments striking. She's tricky, but Belbiţă better, more crisp, more powerful, gets it done. So let's look at the picks. How did they go? Well, I lost with Oliveira and Belbiţă to start the night off. If I wouldn't have flipped a pick after weigh-ins because I was just lacking any real intensity, I guess, for Erceg's frame, I don't know what the fuck happened. The pick flip here crushed me. I had Erceg, but then I flipped to Dvořák, so I take an L. I start 0-2. Then I had Bilder. I was confident on Bilder, and he got his ass whooped. It was sad to see. Nelson wins. So 0-3 to start. That was rough, but hey, Aiemann Zahabi hit, and he was the first money line of the night, so fuck yes. He knocks out Aori. We get a W. Miranda Maverick takes an L to Jasmine. Wasn't an overconfident pick. I thought the lines were stupid as hell in that fight at over 3-1 for Maverick, and she got beaten up by a massive dog. Wish I would have picked the dog side and bet it, but it just wasn't there. Took an L in that one, but not overly upset about this L because I would never touch the Maverick side. Draw in the Imavov fight or no contest, but I had Imavov, and Imavov was winning. So from what we saw of that fight, if we were to judge it as a whole, Imavov was winning. So he's, somewhat of a winner for me, I feel like. Marc-Andre Barriault gets the win, starting it off right. I threw down the CBD Lion lock of the main card money line bet on Marc-Andre Barriault. That shit hit, and I was very happy about that. Dan Ige over Nate Landwehr. I picked Ige. We got a win there. Mike Malott over Fugitt. I picked him by sub. He got the sub, and I thought he would put hands on him too. He did. It was fucking dope. Mike Malott's a savage. Charles Oliveira, Beneil, Dariush. The pick flip worked in my favor here. I just shouldn't have picked against my dog. Charles Oliveira beat Beneil, Dariush, and I rode with Charlie O. So I was very happy about that. And then, deciding that Aldana was the dog lock out of some type of fucking delusion last week, Amanda Nunes whooped her ass in every single aspect of combat. That was the worst pick of all time. Dog lock, not lock, whatever the fuck. Worst pick ever. Then fucking dog locking it. Listen, if I get another dog lock wrong, I might have to fucking start doing some punishments for myself on this week's Best MMA Bets because I'm not fucking standing for this shit. The fuck. Terrible call on Aldana. Now, as far as the record, I believe it was 5-5-1. Let's just count my wins real quick. Zahabi wins, so that was one winner. Barriault 2, 3, 4, 5. And then out of 11 fights, out of 10 really, because there was a no contest, 5-5-1 no contest. But should have been 6-5 for the card overall. And if I wouldn't have been delusional, what the fuck happened? That would have been great. Fuck, man. But that's the game. I can't talk about what ifs. It's all what happened. And ultimately, we got a no contest here. Hey, I'm happy as fuck that I picked Charlie O. And you know what? Still up for the card with the bet, so I can't really fucking complain. Mike Malott was a good money line. Like, it's good shit. There was good shit on it. Fun card. I had a great time in the live stream. It was absolutely popping. So if you aren't watching my fight companions, you're missing out. I hope you guys are excited for next week because I have a slew of content that I'm dropping as always. So stay tuned. Subscribe to the channel. Let's get me to 17,000 subscribers. I'm closing in on it. I'm damn close. Much love to everybody watching. I hope you guys enjoyed UFC 289 as much as I did because honestly, for a card that earlier in the week I wasn't expecting a lot from, that was one of my favorite cards to watch in a while. I just had a fucking blast. And you know what? It's bringing me more excitement heading into next week with Vettori and Cannonier. So stay tuned for those picks. Much love, people. If you got nothing to say in the comments, just drop a W in the chat to boost the algorithm for your boy. And I will see you all in the next one. Peace, everybody.